Good morning to all participants. Welcome to this morning's video podcast. And thank you for your interest in learning about effective feedback and assessment in blended learning. My name is Marvin CADORNIGARA, and I am a New York City public school teacher. This video podcast is brought to you by my YouTube channel, Ilonggo Scientifico. One of the challenges that teachers face during blended learning is providing feedback for students' performance and assessment of skills. Feedback is information given to the learner or teacher about the learner's performance relative to learning goals or outcomes. Feedback studies tend to show very high effects on learning. Feedback is widely regarded by researchers as crucial for improving not only the knowledge acquisition, but learner motivation and satisfaction as well. But how can we provide feedback during blended learning when students are learning remotely or teachers have limited interactions with students? There are a few tools that can help. As teachers get familiar with these tools, they can become effective tools in providing feedback to students in either remote or blended learning. Hattie and Timperley contend that to be effective, feedback needs to be clear, purposeful, meaningful, compatible with students' prior knowledge, and able to provide logical connections. With this definition of feedback, we can identify the following characteristics of an effective feedback activity. The first one, it should be task-specific. Feedback requires learning context and therefore needs to be specific to the task. It is important to establish that while students know what the task is, they also know how they can improve on the completion of the task. Number two, it should be self-regulated. Feedback should be based on the learner's capacity to learn in order for them to develop self-efficacy and self-esteem. By providing feedback according to students' ability to process feedback, they can learn how to learn on their own. Number three, should be complexity oriented. While feedback should address tasks of low complexity in order for students to manage the task level by level, the goal should be to increase the complexity of the task for skills development. Number four, it should be timing appropriate. The timing of feedback depends on the ability of the students to process the feedback. While immediate and instantaneous feedback benefit the students' basic tasks, a delay may provide students with the time to think about difficult tasks before receiving the feedback. And lastly, it should be technology enhanced. When used appropriately, technology has the ability to provide timely feedbacks, as well as improve collaboration, increase social presence, increase dialogue, improve reflection, support learning principles, and increase student satisfaction. Two Google tools can be used for effective feedback tools. These tools allow teachers to provide immediate and sustainable feedback, even when the teachers do not see them in the classroom. Google Forms can collect assessment data and test scores. Google Docs has a comment feature that allows teachers to provide feedback on students' work or projects and allows students to respond to comments made by the teacher. One of the Google tools that can boost teachers' ability to provide feedback is Google Forms. Google Forms is an online app that allows teachers to create online surveys and quizzes and send them to students. With Google Forms, teachers can collect assessment information and provide immediate feedback while students use the tool. With Google Forms, teachers can create, edit, format the text, images, or videos within the activity that uses these tools. As an assessment tool, teachers can send a form to students in the form of a survey that collects the responses or a quiz that measures their knowledge or skills level. Teachers can invite people to be editors of Google Forms, and they can view, they can delete parts and edit parts of the form. This is therefore not just an assessment tool, but also a productive collaborative tool among teachers in a team. Google tools are user-friendly. It does not take much training to learn how to use Google Forms. Once teachers decide to use Google Forms as an assessment tool, teachers would find it very rewarding. Teachers can create a quick quiz on math concepts. Teachers can embed a video of a laboratory procedure for students to watch and prepare comprehension questions based on the video. Teachers can collect ideas from students as a survey. Teachers can write an incomplete story and assign students to complete it. And teachers can assign an evaluation of a class task or activity. Google Forms can be accessed from your Google Drive. You click the waffle icon next to your profile, and it opens into a suite of apps where you can find your Google Forms. You can also create a Google Forms from the new button in your Google Drive, either as a blank form, a blank quiz, or from a template. Let us learn how to use Google Forms. In this podcast, we will be learning Google Forms as a tool for a quiz. In using Google Forms, we can get familiar with the different parts: the title, the questions, the responses, the add-ons, the themes, a preview, the settings, and the share button. Google Forms can be identified by the title that we give to the tools. The title bars are found at the top left and at the center beginning of the forms. Here we can write the title of the forms. In whichever part we type the title first, the other part will copy the same title. Below the title in the forms, there is a space for typing the instructions for your quiz. We can then start to create our questions. For the purpose of identifying students in a quiz, we usually ask for their names. We can decide what kind of questions to create. You can then create your question, and if necessary, create the answer choices. You can make the question required by toggling the button on so that students cannot skip the question. For the question that you created, you can insert a video or an image that illustrates the concept that is demonstrated in the question. In Google Forms, we can ask short answer question, paragraph questions, multiple choice questions, checkbox questions, and dropbox questions. You can also create questions that can be answered through a linear scale, a multiple choice grid, a checkbox grid, including the date or the time. As the students complete the Google Forms that you assigned, you can find the responses. You can click the Responses tab on the top center of the form. It will inform you of the number of responses that were collected. You can open the spreadsheet of the responses. Here, the responses are shown on a Google Sheet. You can also control the acceptance of the responses. With this, you can stop accepting responses at a particular time after you have assigned the quiz. Some add-ons can enhance the functionality and capability of Google Forms. For example, Certify M is an add-on that automatically sends a certificate of participation to individuals who complete the workshop evaluation. Add-ons that can work with forms can be found, selected, and installed from the Google Workspace Marketplace. You can use the Themes button on the top right of Google Forms. The themes in Google Forms allows teachers to design the form by creating a header, image, selecting a theme color, selecting a background color, and selecting the font style. When you select the header, you can select an image as your header from available theme images. You can upload an image from your computer, or you can select images from your device. You can use the preview button on the top right of Google Form. The preview button allows you to check how the Google Forms would look like to the respondents or to your students. You can use the Settings button on the top right of Google Forms. The Settings button allows you to manage your settings as General Settings, Presentation Settings, Quizzes Settings. For the general settings, you can manage how you can collect emails from the respondents or the students. You can also manage how you would limit the response or responses of each respondent, or allows the respondents to edit the responses after their submission. Once a change is made in your settings, click the Save button. For the presentation settings, you can choose to show the progress bar to the respondents as they complete the quiz. You can shuffle the order of the questions so that they are assigned differently to each respondent, or show a link to submit another response. You can also manage to write a confirmation message to your respondents or students. Once a change is made in your settings, click the Save button. When Google Forms is used as a quiz, the quiz button is toggled on. The release grade timing is also managed so that the grade can be released to students immediately after each submission, or can be released later after manual review by the teacher. You can also manage the settings to allow respondents or students to see the missed questions, the correct answers, or the point values of each question. Once a change is made in your settings, click the Save button. When you click the Share button on the top right of the Google Forms, you can manage how the forms can be shared with the respondents or students. You can share the quiz through email by entering the email addresses of the persons that you are sharing the quiz with. Once done, click the send button. You can also share the quiz using a shareable link. You copy the shareable link and post it in Google Classroom for everyone to access. Click the copy button and share the link by pasting it as a post. An embed code is also available to share your quiz to a website. Simply click the embed code and then click the copy button. Then post the embed code into your website. Another Google app that can be used as an effective feedback tool is Google Docs. With Google Docs, teachers and students can create, edit, and format Word documents. Other than text, images, shapes, and objects can also be inserted into Google Docs. Google Docs can be shared with other people, and Google Docs collaborators can work on the same Google Docs while in different places in real time. Other than the usefulness as a word processing tool, Google Docs has a comment feature that can be used for giving feedbacks to students' work or a task. Google Docs allows teachers and students to collaborate in real time on an assignment. As a teacher provides comments on the student's document, the students can make the changes to the document following the feedback. The student can then mark the feedback as resolved. In this example, the teacher writes the comments to a student's essay. The student then makes changes to the document even when the student did not meet the teacher in class. In this example, the students marked the feedback as resolved after the suggestion was accepted and the edit was made. There is one great assessment tool that we can use during blended learning. Edpuzzle is a self-paced learning platform for students' assessment where students can watch lesson videos and can answer assessment questions for comprehension and application of concepts. With Edpuzzle, you can create your own video to upload or find lesson videos to assign to students. You can give your video your magic touch by creating the questions at a particular portion of the video and assess your students' understanding of and their performance. With Edpuzzle, you can check if students are watching the assignment videos. With Edpuzzle, you can check how many times the students watch each section. You can check how much of the lesson video was watched. You can check how much time, the time students spent in watching the video and answering the questions. You can check if the student is understanding the content. You can provide a student with a score. Providing feedback to students can be possible even when students are learning online, remotely, or in a blended setup. Their learning can also be assessed. Google Forms can be used to measure the knowledge, the skills, and levels of understanding, and provide feedback for the concepts that they have missed to fully grasp and comprehend. Google Docs allows teachers and students to interact on an assigned document as teachers provide feedback on the work and students can complete the work in real time. With Edpuzzle, you can make sure students are learning the concepts on their own. Thank you very much for attending today's video podcast. Thank you also for your interest in my YouTube channel. This is your colleague, Marvin Cadornigara, video podcasting directly from New York City. I am inviting you to visit my professional website. It has all the 44 workshops that I have conducted since 2010 as a New York City educator. You can find my email addresses and you can reach out to me using any of these. I am presenting as well my research textbook, which was published in 2002 and was reprinted in 2018. Please let me know if you are interested in purchasing copies of the textbook. If you have not done so, please click the subscribe button below. You will be notified if a new instructional video or a new podcast is available. This YouTube channel is purely a service to education, and I am not getting any money from my channel. You can see that the videos are never interrupted by advertisement. Lastly, click on the link of the evaluation form and complete the evaluation in order to receive a certificate of attendance. The evaluation can be completed until 10 o'clock this morning. Again, thank you very much.